we are still in the area of bots, and we were now in the perspective of the end customer that uses an appointment bot to booking appointments or reschedule appointments. But if we are now going into another field outside to the technician, then we know that technicians in general have to fulfill a really wide range of services today. So they have to do repairs, installations, maintenance, and so on. So they have really a lot of difficult stuff to do outside. And the problem is often that they don't get the right information for the current job that they have to fulfill. All the information is often contained in really complex or unstructured documents. We know that technicians have to deal with handbooks of machines, with manuals. They have to look into a service history of a machine that could be very long, or in the service history of a specific customer. And it's really important for the technician to find out the really essential information out of these really bunch of different documents. So this is also a point where a bot can help. So what we could do is that we connect the chatbot to a knowledge base of documents, and the mobile worker, as the end customer with the appointment bot, can talk to a bot and ask specific questions regarding his job that he has to do on site at the customer. And he can do this in every language. That is what we have seen at Laurin's presentation before, that it is multilingual. And I think, Laurin, you have also prepared an example where we can see how, when you are in the perspective of a technician, you were in the perspective of a customer, now you are in the perspective of a technician, how you could use a search bot to search into your important documents and get some specific answers. Could you show us that?
Yes, I'll share my screen again. Right. Yeah, so now we're more in the perspective, as Michael said, of the service worker who wants to basically need some information. And you basically get there, you go from OMD, you go again to this document search service. And what we do from the beginning, and here you have to basically pay attention to the URL here, is we're saying, basically specifying, okay, what documents do we want to chat about, do we want to talk about? So we know when a service worker is at a certain customer, those documents that are associated with that customer will, of course, be relevant. The other documents, maybe of some other customers, are probably not relevant. So this is what we're saying here. We're saying basically, okay, the context should be customer with this and that number. Of course, the service worker doesn't have to know that. It's you select it in OMD, and also the context is all documents that are associated with this resource. And this is what we found out to be pretty important, is basically doing this pre-selection, because you don't want to chat with all the documents of like thousands of documents, and you need to narrow it down pretty early, and then you get much better results. So now we have, I think we put some documents in here, and we can basically start asking questions. So for example, one question I might have is, okay, and this is really specific, what are the required tools for changing the milling cutter? So this is, of course, the service worker knows, okay, I'm at a customer, I have to change a milling cutter. Okay, and then I get this response again. It's in terms of the technologies we use, it's pretty similar. It's again like a large language model in the background. We give it a tool, we give it a search index that it can choose to search through. And then you get a pretty, I would say in this case, a pretty short, a pretty precise answer. These are the required tools. And another thing that we found out to be really important is that you always give references here, right? So you can see here, it's a bit hard to read, but this is basically one of the documents we have in this knowledge base is some technical documentation of a Rotox machine. And you can see exactly here, okay, it used this document and those 3 pages to essentially synthesize a response. So the response is always customized, basically based on the chat history and based on what exactly the service worker needs. So we can go here, we can open the document. Let's load this up and think, for example, one page that was there is page 52. And you can see here, okay, this is also, of course, if you want to verify, because if you want to verify is the stuff that the large language model said actually correct, right? You can see here, okay, these are indeed the required tools we need for changing the milling cutter. So another thing we can do here is, because we don't want this to be just question and answer, it should be more of a natural, like a dialogue, right? And so one more thing is okay, we got a pretty short answer here, but maybe we need more information about the actual instructions for changing this tool. Again, one thing you will see is that this might take a bit longer now because it needs to generate more text probably, right? Okay, you can see it here, right? So above this was pretty short, and now we get a lot more text actually, and basically we get the instructions on how to do this change. So another thing we thought about is, okay, this is all good, right? But this is maybe not the full potential because this is just one document. So another thing you might do, and maybe this is more the perspective of a planner now, but one question I might have is, okay, what requirements does someone who needs to work this machine actually need to have, right? So what requirements do we need to operate the machine, like in general? So let's ask it that. And then we're getting an answer, right? Again, of course, you can read through this. It's usually it's pretty reliable here. And then an interesting thing here is, okay, we actually put a document here, actually the CV of basically CV of someone called Tim Schmidt. And what we can do now is we can ask the LLM, okay, hey, can you contrast this with the skills of Tim Schmidt? Which is something, I think this is where you see the real potential is where you have many documents and you need to work across these documents, right? So you synthesize information and you get a really customized answer, right? And you can, of course, again, I'm not going to read through all of this, but you can see here, for example, the documentation said something, okay, you should know how to work with PVC, hollow profile lengths. And for example, this is not in the CV of Tim Schmidt. So I think we can open it here. See, and by the way, this is maybe also an important point to notice is the language of the document itself mostly doesn't matter actually. It works across, you don't need to, so you can actually just put the document in there. It should, of course, you should pay attention to the data quality in general. But again, this is multilingual, which I think is quite useful, I think. Yeah, so I think that wraps up that demo. I hope you gained some insights.
Yeah, thank you, Laureen. Yeah, this was a real example from our customer Rotox, which is a company that sells machines for window construction, really big and complex machines. And they sell this over the whole world, and they have technicians that are spread over the whole world to maintain and install these machines. So the part of multilingual is very important, and yeah, they have to deal with really complex informations. And what Laureen shows is that it's possible to narrow this down to the real important things that the technician has to know on site.
And if you have their resumes or CVs in your database, you can even get ideas of who is the one with this background for this very specific customer. I think it's a brilliant way of also using, because you might not know all of your service technicians' background by heart, right? So who do we have in our staff that has the right background to actually solve this question, right?